Councillor Russell Perrin, leader of Harlow Council, one of your big plans, big visions since May is what you call the corporate strategy. To the person on the streets of Harlow, could you explain what that means?
Well, the corporate strategy is the administration's way of telling officers what we want to happen. And from that, what they do is they will build out their delivery plans. So they will go to their various teams and say, okay, this is what we need to do in order to enact what the administration would like to see happen. And from that, you might get individual tasks for officers to take on board. So without that corporate strategy, effectively nobody really knows what to do, and things will just stay as they always have been.
So what's an example? Give us an example. What would you say are the highlights of your corporate strategy?
Well, we've got a number of things. I mean, we have the overarching ambition, which is to regenerate the town across all of its neighbourhood estates, not just the town centre, but also to make the town a more commercially savvy council, to make it more commercially savvy council.
Well, is it not before May 2021 a commercially savvy council?
No, it's not been the emphasis. I mean, we've seen council tax, for example, go up year on year on year, and we've shown how that could be avoided. And that's in our corporate strategy, is to become a more low tax authority. But what the council hasn't had a steer on is where we could actually engage with other partners, so other councils, for example, to reduce the cost of particular services, particularly in the back office function. So, for example, we all have HR departments, but is there an economy of scale if we link up with another council to do that? So that's what the kinds of things we're talking about. Because we cannot always rely on the government grant continuing to support the council with all the different things that we need to do. But equally, council taxes just continue to go up and up and up. And there's been no discernible improvement in the level of service. So people are prone to ask, why is that? And so we've shown year on year that we can reduce council tax, but still invest in our discretionary services. And when we say discretionary services, people often think, well, what does that mean? Well, that's things like Pet's Corner, or the playhouse, or the paddling pools, or the splash pools. They're all things that people want, but we aren't legally obliged to provide. Now, I live and work in the town. I have done most of my adult and childhood, and I don't want to see those things disappear. And if we want to make sure that they're continually looked after, we need to find new innovative ways of trying to fund those. And we don't think you can always rely on just increasing council tax to do that. And so that's what we mean when we're saying looking for more commercial opportunities. I will add, though, that some people might think that means charging a Pet's Corner or charging to use these things at point of use. We're not talking about that. The beauty of those facilities is that people can just walk into Pet's Corner with their children and look around, and we want that to continue. So that's off the cards as far as I'm concerned.
The Labour opposition started to introduce the word last week in council of privatisation. I imagine that's what they're going to be saying throughout 2022.
Well, Labour politicians often do that, but they didn't read the document, because the word isn't mentioned once. It's not even insinuated. And the only time we've had any privatisation in the town, admittedly was under the Conservatives, was when we privatised our crematorium, because over 10-12 years ago, the Labour administration was struggling to maintain the crematorium. It was leaking, it was falling apart, gravesides were going unattended, there was graffiti, and it was in a right state. Then we had problems with new legislation around mercury abatement that were coming in, and the council just couldn't afford to do anything with it. And so we brought in a private provider that worked in partnership with us. They've renovated the crematorium. It's now very nice, clean, open space that doesn't leak, and it brings in a revenue to the council every year, which goes into those services we'd already talked about. So that's an example of where working with the private sector works best.
We're as you can see from the large tree behind you, we're at Christmas time in 2021. Yeah. Do you have time scales and pressures? It's short cycles in councils, isn't it?
It is short cycles in councils, but we set some clear objectives. So in terms of regenerating the town centre, obviously that's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's something that can happen a lot quicker than what we've seen. For 10 years we've seen literally no movement on regeneration of the town centre at all. Now we've already moved a master planning document which gives us control of our town centre to stop private investors just buying up random corners of it where we can't develop it or make it better. Many people won't realise that we're one of the few towns in the country that doesn't own its own town centre. And that makes it exceedingly difficult to regenerate it if there are lots of freeholders with competing interests. So we've now actually brought through a master planning document which now gives us more control over that process. And that's something we've done in fairly short order. And there'll be announcements coming out in the new year about the time frame for us actually putting together a vision and what that actually looks like in terms of regenerating the town centre and the type of investment we're going to need.
Because that's key, really, in all your plans from the town, from Old Harlow to Catherine's. You know, I was interviewing your colleague, Councillor Dan Sword, earlier in the Innovation Park, and we can see businesses moving in, we can see they're there, we can see what once was Nortel or Greenfields is now your enterprise zone. The town centre is central, literally and metaphorically, isn't it?
Yeah, and that example you give just is a really good example of what can happen in short order. Because the last time the Conservatives were in administration at the Town Hall, that's when we got the enterprise zone status. That's what got those industries coming into Harlow. And we did that in really short order, and I was the portfolio holder at the time that worked on that project with other partners across West Essex. When Harlow wasn't even seen as anywhere near getting enterprise zone status. And we've seen that major investment in cash and a major investment in innovation and skills. And that happened all very quickly under our last administration. And it's been very slow to gather pace again and to expand. And now we're starting to see that rapid expansion and investment in those areas. And that's the kind of thing we're talking about. But we're going further. We want to regenerate our actual estates themselves. Because I believe it's you, Michael, who's talked about the donut effect. We've got Harlow, Gilston Garden Town, and being proposed to the north of Harlow. So we have these lovely new homes to the north of Harlow with new infrastructure, new facilities, and yet Harlow itself is ageing. And so what we were looking at is how can we regenerate those estates to bring them up to standard so we don't have a tale of two cities, as it were.
So you go into 2022 and beyond, but we'll see,
Yes.
In a positive mood.
Yes, absolutely. We've made a lot of progress in short order, and we aren't going to let up. So we're moving our regeneration efforts from low to high gear because we want to see action more quickly, and that's not just in the town centre, but that's locally as well in our estates. We're also getting on top of the environment. You will notice over the past, I would say 7 to 8 years, there's been a rapid decline in quality of the landscaping and the environment, and the pandemic hasn't helped with that. I've been holding meetings with our partners HTS, and our new cabinet member Nikki Purse is on the case, and she's actually visiting individual estates and actually holding to account the quality of the work that's going on. And we're working with HTS to look at a solution where we can actually get on top of this across the whole town, because there's been too much slide. And that's what people don't want to see. They want to see pride in their estates, and they can't understand why we're seeing such a rapid decline in the environment. And so my team are working on that continuously to try and improve the quality of the estates. And I think by the time we come around to next April, we should see a noticeable difference. We won't be there yet. Remember, we are trying to reverse almost a decade's worth of decline in the environment, and that's going to take some work. But the team are on it, and we're really committed to getting that right.
Councillor Perrin, thank you very much for your time.